Good morning, everyone. I've got a beginner's classic set of watercolour paints here. This is quite typical of what we might start out with when we start doing watercolours. Now, this brand that I'm going to show you is called Phoenix. And if I go down here, you'll be able to see it here. I saw, no, I think it was the Frugal Crafter, Lindsay. Can't remember her surname. Sorry, Lindsay. But she was opening up some packages that Phoenix had sent to her, and she was saying that these are pretty much like Winsor and Newton. So I'm going to be testing these out as a typical, it says artist quality on here, typical classic set of paints that we might start out with, checking to see if, they're better than perhaps just your hobby type paint, if you like. And then I'm going to be doing some mixes as well, showing you that, to start off with, something like this is actually quite a good starting place, especially if we haven't spent loads of money on them. And it means that we get to know a basic classic set of colors and how to mix using those colors before we maybe start playing around with our own or building up and curating our own typical palette of colours that we like to use. So this cost me £22.84 on Amazon UK, and I think I did look it up. Let me just check. Actually, on Amazon.com, so the US site, it's $17.99, so dollars. Right. Oh, okay. We've got quite a bit going on here. Have we got some instructions on the back? We have. Okay. So it says here it's a 16-piece set, all in one set. You've got 12 watercolor half pans, a folding brush, a folding cup, a portable box, and a watercolor sponge. Oh, okay. And we've got a little diagram here. So, it looks like it could be quite nifty. Oh, lovely. Now that writing for me, even with my reading glasses on, is going to be a tad small, but yeah, it's got all the information that you want. It's got whether it's the transparency, it's got the light fastness, and it's got the pigment. So we're doing light fast wise. It looks like 3 stars is the highest rating. Okay, right, well that'll help, won't it? Right, so, and we can use that. Now how do we, oh, okay. That comes out as well. Oh, now that brush is looking quite nice. That opens like that. Right. Let us see how to... Oh, this is the... Look at that. And I'm guessing that fits. Yes. That fits in there. Oh, she says. How sturdy is that going to be? Maybe it needs to go down one. There. Okay. So that fits kind of to third notch up. And then that's going to go on, I'm going to put that on this side. Don't think it, does it matter? No, it does matter. Right, okay, that's got to go on that side. And oh, it snaps into place, right? Then that's the sponge. Okay, and how is that fitting in? Like that. Okay. Well, I will put some water in here. Um, I'll pour some out of my spray bottle. For what I'm going to do, it won't be enough, but we can at least test it, I suppose. Has it got a ring pull? No, it hasn't got a ring pull on the bottom. Right, let's just have a little look at this brush then. Oh, does it say what size it is? Doesn't say what size it is. Right, let's do a comparison. Round about that size. Size 8, maybe? What else have we got here? This is a size 8. Maybe it's a bit bigger than an 8. It's not as big as a 12. Maybe it's more like a 10 then. And that just slots in. Oh, let's use this then. Whoa. Okay. Right, this has got the kind of glue on it. So I'm gonna have to get that off first. There we go. And I'm going to bring in some extra water and an extra palette, which is just slightly out of shot, isn't it? Let's move down, 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 down. Right. Okay. So let's get started with I don't know whether to kind of label these up first. It's probably a bit boring for you. I can maybe pause while I label them up. Okay, I am back and I have labelled them all up so that we know what we've got. So let's start. Oh, let me just, if there's any water left in here. So I'm just going to spray them all, get them activated. So our first one is lemon yellow. Oh, well, these are creamier than I thought. I should really be using this one. Do you know, this does actually work. Okay, lemon yellow is PY175. It's transparent and 3 stars, so the highest rating for light fastness. Now we're moving on to cadmium red. Whoa, these are really nicely pigmented. Put it on my little one as well. So cadmium red in this case, it's cadmium red deep, PR254, PR188, transparent and 3-star light fastness, top rating again. Then we've got permanent rose. That looks pretty. PV19. Right, transparent and 3-star rating again. So, in fact, I think, right, I'm not going to keep saying 3-star rating for light fastness because they all are, apart from the one I'm going to do next, which is dioxazine violet. And so far they've all been transparent colours. So let's do our dioxazine violet, and this is a favourite colour of mine. You don't always get this in a beginner's set, but it's looking very pretty at the minute. Right, next we've got cerulean blue. This isn't a cerulean blue, it's PB15, which I think is a phthalo blue. So I'm not sure. I'm going to look that up in a minute because I could be doing them a disservice. It's a pretty colour. In fact, they're all looking rather pretty there, aren't they? So this is the first one that is, yeah, I'm guessing that means opaque. Doesn't really tell you, but because the square is blocked in, I'm guessing that means it's opaque. And I'm just going to check what the pigment is for cerulean blue. Right, yes, I was right. The actual pigment is PB35. So yeah, this looks like it's a phthalo kind of substitute. Right, what have we got next? Cadmium yellow. And by the way, this brush, this is such a decent brush to get in a little set. This would do you as a beginner. I think that's rather a nice touch. Okay, there we go. A transparent cadmium yellow, PY97, PY65. Oh, I forgot to put it on my little thing. There we go. By the way, I know I'm not using this, but this does actually work really nicely. Right, ultramarine, PB29, that is the correct pigment for a real ultramarine. Ultramarines should be granulating. And it's transparent. Let's leave that and see if it does granulate. Right, next we've got emerald, which is, it's a mixing colour. PG7 is a phthalo green. PY175 is lemon yellow because we've just swatched it up here. So this is a mix of colours, and you would use that to mix with other things to make a better green, together with Hooker's Green Dark, which to be fair is not a bad colour on its own, but Hooker's Green is another green that is meant for mixing with other things. PG7, so we've got phthalo green, PY139, I'm not sure, that's a yellow of some sort, and PB15, which I think is our phthalo blue in there. So this is transparent. Next we've got yellow ochre. And do you know, these are rather lovely for a beginner's set. Really creamy, really nice. Yellow ochre, PY42. It's opaque. And as I said, everything is highest light fastness except for the dioxazine purple, which is medium. Then we've got our burnt umber, PBR 7 and PY 42. Lovely. This is opaque again. And finally, and I'm never quite sure why they put this into sets really, but it's Chinese white, which isn't really going to show on here, but we'll pop it down anyway. Oh, and I forgot to do my little one. So let's just pop all of these on here. There we go. I'm not going to bother popping the white on there. But it's rather nice that they've given you this with all of the information that you need about each of the colours. So I'm just going to pop that to one side now to dry. And let's get a bit of mixing done. Now, I could, let me just see. So I'm just going to do a bit of testing here. So I've cleaned my brush and then I can dab it on the sponge. Ooh, works. So I said that the two greens are really more mixing greens. So let's use some of this space here. We'll take the emerald green. And we can add, let's add some of the cadmium yellow to it. And then we get what's quite a nice May green, spring green kind of colour, which is rather lovely. And if we take a little bit of the ultramarine blue and add to it, then we're going to get a darker green, similar to our hooker's green. Let's just take our emerald green again and add some of the yellow ochre to it. And then you will see that we get more of a muted olivey green. We get an olivey green. So just by doing a bit of mixing with our emerald green, we get these. Now let's take our hooker's green and we'll pop you there. And let's add some of the lemon yellow, for instance. Actually, we'll stick with our greens over here, I think. So this is our hooker's green with the lemon yellow. And you can see we're getting loads of lovely greens here. Let's add some of the ultramarine blue to it. And we get something like a fir tree kind of green. Lovely. And if we take our hooker's green, we just add a bit more in there. And we add our yellow ochre. Then you can see we also get this kind of olive green. So we've got two greens, but I would have to say you need to add a yellow or a yellow ochre, or you can add one of the blues. Let's just try this emerald green. Need a bit more water there. With the cerulean blue. Oh, a bit more needed. I want to see if we can get a kind of a, there we go, a kind of an aquamarine. Which is rather lovely. And so far we're just playing with the greens. So if we take our, might need to wipe that out. Let's see how it cleans up. Wow, that's cleaned up really nicely. I am quite impressed with this whole setup. It means you don't have to take a separate bottle of water for your watercolors. You can just use your normal water bottle that you take for, you know, drinking for yourself. Right, what was I doing? Let's take the other green, the Hooker's green, and let's add the cerulean blue to that. Need a bit more. There we go. And here we have, so I would call that a sort of a green aquamarine colour, and this one more of a blue aquamarine colour. And then, just for good measure, let's see if we can make a really dark, almost perylene green. And let's add some of the burnt umber. Too much burnt umber. A bit more of the Hooker's green. There we go. And now we've got a perylene green. How different is that if I do it with the emerald green and the burnt umber? Whoops, that's mixing in together. Very similar, but it's it's brighter, slightly brighter than the Hooker's green with the burnt sienna. And you can see that I'm hoping you can see the burnt sienna is looks like it's granulating. You can see those little granules in there. Wow. Right, so I think we need to turn the page, because all we've done really is have a little bit of a play with our two greens, adding different yellows, adding different blues, adding yellow ochre, adding burnt umber. Let's see what else we can do with just 12 colours. And in fact, if you forget the white, you've kind of got 9, not 12, 11 colours. Count properly, Michelle. So I'm going to dry this, turn it over, and we're going to do a bit more mixing. Now I've dried these off and I'm going to bring them up. Sorry, this one had a bit of a puddle, so it ran a bit, but there we go. And so far we've just mixed all of these different greens. Perfect for if we're doing landscapes, basically. And we've used our emerald and our hooker's green as our base, and then mixed some of the other yellows, ochres and burnt umbers in there, and even some cerulean blue. I don't think we even mixed ultramarine yet. Right, but we've got quite a lot of greens there. Let's have a bit of a play now. And I've cleaned my palette out again. It's cleaning up beautifully, by the way. And I really am loving this travel brush. I love the fact that it all packs into one as well. Right, let's take our red, which is the cadmium red. And we'll add some lemon yellow to it. It's quite a strong colour, the cadmium red, so I'm going to need a bit more of the lemon yellow. There we go. And then we've got a glorious orange. That is a nice orange. Look at that. If we take our cadmium red and we add the cadmium yellow, remembering that cadmium red is a strong colour, then we get a slightly different orange. And we've got two cadmiums together, both of which I might have to open this up. Oh no, they're both transparent. So because the lemon yellow isn't as strong as the cadmium yellow, you can see that this one is more of a reddy orange, and this one's more of a yellow orange, because the cadmium yellow is a stronger, warmer yellow. Right, let's take our red now. And we're going to add, let's add the yellow ochre. Wow. Now the yellow ochre is opaque. It's not transparent, it's not see-through. And here we get a really golden, much more leaning towards the red yellow ochre. So more like a red ochre, I suppose, which is rather lovely. I'm going to move to this one so as I don't have to keep, because you wouldn't be mixing so many colours. And I'm going to pop some of the cadmium red down, and I'm going to mix it with cerulean blue. And then we get this mauve, what I would call a mauve colour, or even an aubergine kind of colour. Rather lovely. And then mixing it with the ultramarine blue, So this is definitely more on, that's on more on the red side of a mauve or a purple, and this is more on the blue side of a purple. So not only have we got our dioxazine purple in our set, we can also mix slightly different purples and ones that are leaning more towards aubergine. If we take our, let's pop another couple of dollops down. We take our cadmium red and we add, let's add our burnt umber. And then we get a much more reddish brown than we did with just our burnt umber. And if we add our hooker's green, let's try and add a bit more of the hooker's green. There we go. And then we'll get a slightly different brown as well. Okay, so let's now take the cadmium red, pop a couple in there, ready to go. And we can add the cerulean blue. And then we get this kind of reddy purple colour. And then if we add the ultramarine, is it the ultramarine? Yep, the ultramarine. And then we get a much deeper, more bluey purple. Okay, let's turn my thing around. If we take the permanent rose, oh dear, what am I doing? Get your head on. Let's take our permanent rose. Am I still in shot? Yes. Let's take our permanent rose and we'll add the cerulean blue. We'll just go over the top of that. Then we get a very nice purple. If we add the ultramarine blue, then we get something very close to a dioxazine purple. Now, some of these colours will be granulating, But I'm not going to go into that on this video. I'm just showing that with a very small set of paints, which is basically 11 colours and a white, you can make so many other colours. And with a small set, it means that we start to learn how to mix our colours, basically. Right, let's wipe this clean, and then we can carry on mixing. There we go. Right, let's take our cerulean blue and our yellow ochre, and we will get a very nice olive green. So although we've got a couple of greens in this set, they're more mixing greens than anything else. Right, let's take the ultramarine blue. Gone off shot a bit, haven't I? Apologies, everybody. And our yellow ochre. We get a much more yellowy olive green colour. If we take our cerulean blue, and we add our lemon yellow, then we get a very unnatural colour. Okay, I missed one here, didn't I? Well, when I say we get an unnatural colour, this is probably what you would call a spring green or a May green. And if we take our lemon yellow and we add our ultramarine, and then we get something that's more like a fir green, cypress green, fir green, whatever we wanted to call it. So we've got a variation of greens that we can mix. If we take, just wipe that off. If we take the cadmium yellow, and we mix the cerulean blue, that's rather a nice green. Maybe we'd call that May green or something like that. And if we add the ultramarine to it, then we get more of a, probably more of a natural green, would we call it? I don't know. But yeah, we definitely get some different colours going on, different greens. So we can easily mix some nice greens with our two blues and our two yellows and even our yellow ochre. So that's all rather lovely. Let's see what else we can do mixing wise. If we take our permanent rose, and we add our lemon yellow, did I do that one? No, I used the cadmium. Okay, and if we take our permanent rose, and we add the cadmium yellow, so those top ones were mixed using the cadmium red with our yellows, and this is using the permanent rose with our yellows. And you can, I mean, you can kind of keep going and keep going, mixing and mixing. If we take let's take the emerald green, and then we add the cerulean blue, a bit more. Then we will get an aquamarine colour. If we take the lemon yellow again, and we add the ultramarine blue, and then we get a rather nice green there. Just wipe that off to give me some more space. If we take the cadmium yellow, and let's add the burnt sienna this time. I might need a bit more of the and that's going to give us a different brown. And if we take the, what was this? This was the, oh gosh, I've forgotten what I was mixing now. lemon yellow. And we add that to, let's add that to the yellow ochre. Then we can tone down our lemon yellow. What haven't I mixed? We've got one more left. Well, let's take our dioxazine purple and mix that with the cadmium yellow. And there we can get another brown. And you can keep going, keep going, keep going, basically. I'm going to see if you just move these a moment. Try and make space. And what I want to do is open both pages up, and I may have to go up a bit. There we go. So that we can get them all in. But hopefully you can see that you've got a whole range of, and there's more, there's many more. When you get a set of, or a little pocket set of colours like this, it means that you learn to mix. And I think that is really, it's really important to be able to mix your colours. And with a smaller set, you're more or less forced to. I mean, you've only got one brown, for example. Now, if we wanted, oops, where are we? You know, if we wanted a darker brown, then we could take, let me just put that there a minute. We could take the brown that we've got, which is burnt umber. So we can take our burnt umber, and if we mix that with our ultramarine blue, then we can get black. If we add a little bit more of the burnt umber, then we can get a really dark brown compared to the burnt umber that came in the set, being here. And then this is where we've mixed the burnt umber with the ultramarine blue. So you can definitely keep going and keep mixing and finding new colours from the ones that are in the set. So I think learning to mix your colours when you have a small set like this is really useful. It helps you to understand the colours that you've got and how they mix together to produce all of these different colours, and is such good practice, basically. And this, I would have to say, is quite easy to hold. This felt really flimsy but it's actually really sturdy. The brush that comes with it is superb, absolutely superb. Normally with a small set like this, you get a very tiny brush that's probably round about a size 4 or 6 at the most. This is definitely more like probably a size 10, I would say. It's bigger than an 8, but not as big as a 12. So I would say this is probably round about a size 10 brush, which, you know, means that it's going to be okay for, let me just dry this off, and we'll use it in this sketchbook to do something. I think because this is A4 size, if you were doing anything bigger than A4, then you'd probably need a bigger brush. But when you're first starting out, you're probably only going to be doing A5, A4 size anyway. So I think it's perfect for when you're starting out. I'm going to quickly dry this and then we'll have a go at something and see how it works. Okay, so I've just dried that off, and you know there are more mixes that you could do. You know, you could take your permanent rose and mix it with the lemon yellow, and mix it with the cadmium yellow, and see what kind of orangey hue that you get. You can keep going and keep going, getting to know a small number of paints is so much better. And as you can see, you don't need black because you can make black easily with the burnt umber and the ultramarine. You can make your equivalent of black and it will look more natural than anything else. So let's turn the page. There we go. And let's have a go at using this brush. And I'm just going to spray and wet my page because I'm going to do something fairly loose. But, you know, if you had this while you were out and about, I don't think you would go far wrong. So let's start with getting a bit of a sky in. I could have done with clipping my page down. Bear with, as they say. There we go. That's going to be better. So I just, with the cerulean blue, I'm just making a little bit of a sky. Very light. But that is coming out very light on screen, isn't it? Let's try and darken that up a bit for you. Kind of sky where we've just got a few wispy clouds going on. We want a bit of a horizon. And then our greens are not particularly natural greens. So I'm going to take the, what one was this? Hooker's green. I'm just going to keep mixing in my palette here, adding to that. what was there with the cerulean blue. And let's see, what shall we add? Because, you know, these aren't natural greens. Let's add some of the cadmium yellow and get a green that looks a bit more natural. There we go. And we can then start getting some of this green down. I'm just going to do a bit of a landscape. I'm going to add a bit more of the cadmium yellow so that we start to get some different greens in there. And then I'm going to take some of the yellow ochre so that I get an even different kind of green going on. There we go. So we're starting to build our picture up. I'm going to take the hooker's green, and you'll notice I'm just mixing because I know I'm going to be mixing another green. I'm just keep going in the same spot, but I want to darken that up. So I'm going to add some of the ultramarine to it. And I want to get a bit of a tree line in the background. There we go. There's our trees in the distance. And I think maybe we could use some of our burnt umber and maybe in places we can have some kind of rocky bits. I mean, I'm just playing. I don't really know what I'm painting, to be honest. Okay, so we've got some little rocky bits there. And then let's take our very pretty permanent rose, water it down a bit, and get some splattered bits in here. And with our green that we used for our trees at the back here, which I'm going to make a bit greener by adding a bit more of the hooker's green. I'm just going to get some little, what looks like little stems going on. All around these pretty little flowers growing up here and there. And some kind of leaf shapes going on. And then with my burnt umber, this is all wet in wet at the moment, by the way. Let's get a tree coming across. And if I add some of the ultramarine into the tree, and I start to get this really much darker brown coming through with a bit of a hint of the ultramarine in it. And when it's dry, we'll tidy that up. And it's all looking a little bit wishy-washy, if you like. But this is what I call my first coat, or my base coat. So I'm going to dry this off now. Okay, I think that's dry enough. And I'm now going to take my burnt umber, was it? Burnt umber, and my ultramarine blue, and get a bit more of a darker brown. And I'm just going to define my tree a little bit more. And maybe we've got like a little bird's nest in there. I'm just going with what's here. So that can be another little bird's nest. And a bit more of our burnt umber. More. Some more of those kind of branches in. And with I'm just going to use this to kind of get the idea that we've got something going on here with these kind of birds nesty things. Not sure that I like those. I think I'm going to go over it. Anyway, we're just playing, so it doesn't really matter too much. And let's go and define some of these rocky bits a bit more. As we've got these kind of rocks going on. Okay. And maybe they're birds' nests. Yeah, they look a bit like birds' nests, don't they? Let's try and tidy our tree up a bit more, I think. And I'm adding in some ultramarine to the burnt umber. So as we get something a bit more interesting than just burnt umber. Okay, now we need to do something a bit more with our little flowers here. So let's take our ultramarine blue and our emerald green and maybe a bit of the cadmium yellow. Was that one? Yep, cadmium yellow to get a more natural green going on. And we can add to our little patch of flowers here. And take our, what was this? Permanent rose, that's right. And get a few more flowers in the front here. Colour, very pretty colour, this permanent rose. There, so that we've got something going on there. And if I mix the burnt umber with the yellow ochre, and we'll get a different kind of brown, because kind of need to ground them somehow. So that they're coming from somewhere. They look a bit more like birds' nests than anything else, don't they? Maybe we'll crisscross a bit more and add, we need to add a branch. Yes. So, yeah, I'm just going to crisscross these a bit more, and I think they can be a couple of kind of bird's nesty things going on. Well, this brush does seem to be working quite well. And I think all that's left is for me to take this permanent rose and get some permanent rose splats going on. And, you know, this was just a something. I suppose we could even get some grasses going. Let's take our blue and darken that green up a bit, and just add a few grasses coming out here and there. Just to add a little something going on. In fact, they look like a couple of birds' nests now, don't they? Who knows? Anyway, you know, I'm just playing and showing that you know, we can definitely let's just darken that brown up. We can darken our brown that came in the set, which was burnt umber. If we add some of the ultramarine to it, then we get a much you know, darker colour. Maybe kind of ground them a little bit more. Okay, anyway, this was purely just to have a little bit of a play. If I bring this up, then hopefully you can see the, now what colour was that? That was the burnt umber and the ultramarine make a really lovely colour on trees. But it's a pretty decent set, I would have to say. I quite like let's just pop that there and bring this back up. This little set, you can easily hold it in your hand, clean your brush, wipe it off, and as long as you've got a bottle of water with you, then you can refresh the water in here as many times as you like. And I'm pretty much impressed with it, to be honest. The colours do what they should do. Yeah, this is not a bad set at all. Try and wipe this off. Might need another tissue. But it's quite a decent amount of space to mix your colours in, to be fair. So yeah, Not a bad little set at all. And I think the fact that you get a decent brush that's a decent size, yeah, I would say it's not a 12, it's not an 8, it's probably more like a size 10, at a guess. But yes, this, you know, with the little sponge, yeah, really quite impressed with the whole set. And when you look at, ooh, where are we? Just how many colours, and I didn't do everything that you can do, that you can get. And yeah, the ultramarine is definitely, that's granulating, which is why we're getting some nice mixes, basically. But yeah, plenty of greens, purples, oranges. You know, you can darken or lighten your browns up. You've got purples, you've got pinks. Lovely. Really nice little set that you can easily take out and about with you. So, there we go. That is the Phoenix Artist Quality Watercolour Pocket Set. Classic tones. Yeah, £22.84. Not bad for a starter's setup, and a decent brush that comes with it. And I like this whole setup, actually. I think it's really nice. So there you go, everyone. Yeah, if you're going to have a little set, then get to know all of your colours, get to know how to mix them. I would have to say that this is enough to really get you started. Right, I'm leaving it there for now. Gosh, this video's gone on longer than I thought. Right. Enjoy. And if you're just starting out, then you don't want paints that are student grade. You want something that is an artist grade. And I would have to say that these are pretty good. Yeah, maybe they make them for other brands. I'm not sure, but yeah, decent set of paints there. Okay, enjoy, have a play with them if you buy them yourself, and see you next time.